Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May meeting of the Town of Newbury Human Resources Board. Present on the board are
Diane Doyle.
Mark Fleckman,
John Farrar.
Anthony Antico.
thank you all. I believe Lynn Peabody will be joining us shortly, and Chief Fisher has a conflict tonight, she'll not be joining us. But in any event, we have a quorum. Also joining us today, Tracy Blaze, Town Administrator. Hi, Tracy. Thank you for joining us. First order of business, as always, is to review and approve the minutes from the previous meeting of, in this case, April 28th. Has everyone had an opportunity to read through those?
Yes.
Diane, as always, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next order of business, employee issues. Diane, we turn to you. Anything that you're aware of, we should be aware of?
Nothing that's been brought to my attention.
Okay, haven't heard anything from Chief Fisher in that regard. I assume that's the same there. Tracy, anything?
No.
Okay, good. Always good to hear. Personnel actions and job vacancies. We talked last month about the fact that a couple of roles in the PD had been filled, I believe, full-time communication dispatcher.
Yep.
The patrol position was still open last month, as far as I know, it still is.
Yep.
And the administrative assistant to the PD started 16 miles ago, right?
Yes.
Okay, anything new beyond that in terms of?
So we had two positions that, well, one that's open, that's currently open, that we had a freeze on until we understood the outcome of the override, and that's the assistant planner position.
Okay.
So we will be posting that.
Great.
And then we've also been notified of a retirement, I guess. The assistant assessor is going to be leaving us.
Assistant assessor. Okay, and that's a position that again will be refilled?
Will be refilled,
Okay.
yes.
Great. Like go to the outside for that, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else in terms of personnel actions and or job vacancies? PD?
Nothing
Status
new
quo?
that I'm aware of.
They will be, did you mention they will be posting for the full-time police officer that was also on hold?
That's the same as last month?
That's the
right?
same, yeah, okay.
Thank you. I've not been alerted to any issues relative to workplace discrimination, ethics issues, nothing. Wonderful. Safety issues, everything status quo at Town Hall, PD, library, nothing new there. Other business. We've had ongoing discussions, good productive conversations regarding the consulting work that Sandy and HRS has done for the town of Newbury, and at this point, her work is complete. I think in the last few weeks, Diane being the point person, that's right, has received all the last minute documentation and reporting that Sandy had promised.
Yep.
And pass those along. We've had an opportunity to review them. Thank
Yep.
you all. Diane, anything else you want to report there in terms of
No, at the last meeting, we talked about receiving the final report, some, I think, additional firefighter information, but then all of the classification documents and the login to the portal that she has on her website. And so I had sent out the information to everyone so they could start looking at it. And what I did was I culled from that information and also from the web portal sort of the working documents for our classification process. So that's what you have here.
Great.
So this is sort of the start of our July 1, 2026 classification schedule. So I won't go through it in great detail, but like I said, I pulled most of the stuff that I felt was our working documents. Yeah, you can open them out.
Now?
Yes.
Do it now?
On the inside binder, there's an email. In that email is the login for the portal. So it's at the website. We will just have one login for everyone to use. There's nothing that can be changed. It's a portal to go in. And if you have some time, go in and look around. It's really incredible the amount of information that she has in there. Resources, all the backup data, everything. There's quite a bit of information in there. So I encourage everyone to go in and log in,
Right.
to take a look at what she has there.
And the username, just, I want, just a
So-
little bit like it, that's an explanation of
Yes.
that, your name, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
So you go to the website, up in the right-hand corner, there's a login, you would use these login
Yep.
credentials.
Great.
And just, it's pretty user-friendly, and you'll see all of the data, all of our stuff that she used to go into, you know, the report and the analysis work that she did, so. So all I did was kind of start a binder for us. It's, you know, for our classification schedule that we'll start using July 1st. The first one is just the full report. I didn't tab these yet because this is sort of, like, this is kind of a draft. Final report, the classification schedule, which I know some of you already printed.
Yeah.
The factors that she, and this, I'm gonna try to format this a little differently. So these are our factors
Right.
of every job description, which is followed by every job description that she rated.
Yep.
All of the job descriptions
That
here.
is.
Yep, and then our new classification schedule. Again, using the positions 24, working backwards, I want to work on this a little bit,
Yep.
but all our new classifications based on her analysis. And then the last one is her summary of our benefit analysis that she did do for us that we asked for. So I thought this was a good place to start. I think a couple of the schedules need to be tweaked. I've also come across a few things that I think we need to add. But what I would hope is that you could all take a look at this, log into the portal, review everything, and sort of see, you know, it's gonna be a little cumbersome at first for us, because
Right.
the look of it will be different. It's the same process, but the look will be a little bit different. But hopefully the next meeting, we can come back and make any tweaks to the schedules, and if there's missing information or something else you'd like to see, we can go from there, so.
A lot of work, Diane, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So, the degrees, the descriptions, as I mentioned earlier before you, the nuance is remarkable. You know, 1 through 6, and almost indistinguishable at times. And the one we actually have positions that have this level of complication at department level. I mean, it almost, well, it'd be interesting trying to figure out if we ever, other than maybe 1, 2, 3 positions in the village, we get down to degree 6, 7, or 8, whatever.
The thing that I had explained to her that sometimes we do is if we come to a rating and we can't all seem to come together, whether it's a 3 or a 4, sometimes we split the difference, and she said absolutely not.
Yeah.
It fits into one category,
Uh-huh.
one doesn't.
Yeah, she made that clear.
Yeah,
Yeah. She's probably right.
so maybe that's the reasoning behind, you know,
Yeah.
beefing it up a
It's
little bit.
incredibly thorough and well-written.
I'm assuming, I'm looking at page 21 of her
This reference.
position rating summary sheet.
Yeah, are you in this report or are you in the back?
Yeah,
You're in that.
It's on page 21, I think.
21, and she refers to it on page 2, telling you to prepare a copy for each position.
Right, so I'm assuming that, as I read through this, I'm assuming that the 1 and the 2, the columns that are headed by 1 and 2, that refers to the fact that she says the recommendation is that that at least 2 different sets of eyes
Mhm.
are to look at these ratings.
I asked,
Now,
yeah.
we do it as a collective,
Right.
but that's what that refers
Yes.
to, right, the 1 and the 2?
Yep, I asked her that, and
Okay.
she said, you know, we would have everyone go through their own rating, and you would look at the ratings, and I explained that we discuss it, we come to one agreement on,
Right.
and that's when I asked her about the 0.5.
Right.
So in our case, we would just have
Just use
one.
one column?
Yeah.
Okay, so-
And
okay.
you had mentioned that she said she was willing the first time we go through a classification to kind of zoom in with us.
Oh, great, That would
Which
be
I
helpful, yeah.
thought would be really helpful.
Absolutely,
when you
yeah.
mentioned that.
Yeah,
great.
yeah, because the factors here on the page just prior to that, if you see, it's not just all groups of 5s and 10s, it's not 3 times 5 or 4
Right.
times 5. It's a point system, they are all in increments of 5s, except for problem solving number 3, there's an 18 in there.
Right?
So if you award something a 3, you would just get it 18 points, as opposed to on our old schedule, the way that we did it, it was 3 times,
Right.
15 or what have you. So it'll be a little, it'll take some adjustments, but I
Yep.
think it's relatively the same. But she did say that when we go through the first rating, she'd zoom in and kind of walk us through it, or be part of the discussion, so that if we've had questions along the way.
Great.
That'd be a good
That would be very
tutorial.
helpful.
Tutorial is.
Other thoughts, questions, observations? I mean, there's a lot of material here.
Read
Yeah.
it thoroughly.
So the thing that I think needs work, which I hadn't really had a chance to do, is this schedule here that we have formally in it.
Right.
The 24, it starts at the highest job and kind of works down. So it's in the third to last, the third tab. And again, we'll label these once we, the next one. Yeah, that one, yeah. So I think it needs to be inverted, so we start at 24 and work back
right.
down, because the reason why these are kind of 2 separate pages, yeah, Tony, the third section, second,
Page 22.
Good section, right?
next page,
This is page 22?
yeah, the next one after that.
Ah, okay.
So she had to send this to me in 2 separate files, because the files as she was sending me things were really large. So once I download this, I can kind of reformat it a little bit, and I think it should start with 24 at the top and work down.
Yeah.
Yep, so that's one of the things that I noticed. I also noticed that in the prior, the classification factors, when all of the ratings, this is the third tab, first page. This is all the factors as they've been filled in by all of the ratings that she did.
Right.
Nowhere on this schedule does it show when the job was rated, but we have, so I think we should add a date. For all intents and purposes, everyone's gonna start with a July 1 of 2026
Right,
date.
I would agree.
But I'd like to see a date column over after totals.
Right.
And I brought that to her attention, and she said, no one's ever, like, she said, that's a great idea, so.
Well, and it would serve as a fail-safe for us, because, you know, our history is that sometimes things go, you know, if an alarm says they go, you know, without, and all of a sudden you look up and it's 4 years later, and there's been no movement in the role, and as a result of that, the position hasn't been looked at, potentially reclassified, so
Yeah.
I think that date's a great idea.
So those are the types of things, like, over the next, few weeks, if folks can just take a look at it, and anything that they see
Okay.
as we, because I'm gonna be modifying and combining some of these things. The date, just, the inverted order, like the way she has it, I think it needs to start at the top on
Yeah.
both. and
No, I agree.
So,
Thank you. A lot of work here, Diane, thank you so
Yes,
much.
great.
Pretty heavy effort.
I just wanted to ask, admittedly so, I got a little bit confused with this. I was challenged trying to equate our 10 factors to her 14 factors. Some of the language is the same, some of it, one of our factors might be combined, or, one of her factors might combine 2 of ours. And the thing I started to, not question, but I was curious about is that if you look at our old point factoring weighting system here, I got this from the last business that we rated, not sure what it was. And, we weight complexity, judgment, decision-making, education, experience, and independent action, all at 15% of the total pie. Right? So those 4 represent 60% of the total. And I got lost a little bit trying to figure out, where that weighting system would fall in her 14 factors. Whether whether we need to look at whether they're weighted the same way we always weighted certain characteristics of it. Am I making sense?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think they are though. I don't,
I didn't think so when I started looking at some of them,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how relevant that would be. You know, because we're used to looking at complexity, judgment, decision-making is 15% of the pie, education is 15% of the pie, experience 15%, independent action or initiative 15%. That's a majority of the pie, those 4 factors alone. And I'm just, even though she has 14 factors, I'm trying to equate whether they, in total, they get weighted the same way our old ones did.
yeah, I don't.
Or how important, is it important for that to be?
I mean, I have to say our old ranking system, I thought was very effective in terms of, you would go through all the detailed analysis
Right.
and I would do it kind of absent of that.
Right.
And they would frequently come in very
Yeah.
similarly, so I felt like.
Yeah, I thought
there
it
was
served us
some-
well.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, I may be swimming upstream on this, but that's why from the beginning, I remember I said to you on the phone 3 weeks ago, I said, have we as a board concluded that we should go to these 14 new factors? And this kind of confirmed my curiosity as to whether it's a necessity or whether we stick with the 10 that we have because they've always served us well. I don't know if I'm making sense or not.
If we were to do a hypothetical case, or reach back and do one we've already done under the old system, and then run it through the nuance and rigor of page 20 and 21 in the manual and see how far apart they are.
Mhm.
Just one case study, using her 14, and run it through the line and treat it exactly the same. Pick out any position. Tracy Blaze. Run Tracy Blaze through Elder,
Yeah, you did mine fairly recently too.
Yeah,
or do yours.
Yeah,
And
we've
then
done
let's
recently.
do Diane Doyle one more time on page 20 and see if you come out within 1% of where we were before. Probably will.
I'd actually say that that's already been done, because if you look at her ratings, if you look at how she rated it and compared it to what we rated it, we
Yeah.
can see where the pitfalls might be,
Yeah.
because she's done them all.
Yeah.
Pitfalls on our old
Like if-
system or the new system.
if there were
If there
a
are-
large discrepancy.
Understood.
Yeah,
And I think that when she reported to us, when she came in to make her presentation, she said, in many cases, they aligned in the same way.
Yeah.
There were very few that changed from a grade perspective, but the ones that did change might have needed to change.
right.
I think
Right.
a couple of them might be.
Yeah.
But I don't think there were many that didn't sort of fall in parallel with what we already had.
One map to the other.
Yeah.
And the ones that did change, probably because their position morphed.
So
Yeah.
it,
Or
Yeah.
had
Yeah,
been
not because of the grade.
along that.
Yeah, their position responsibilities grew.
so if you look at
What page are we?
the third section,
Third section, yeah.
behind those charts is every single job rating that she did. I'm not suggesting we do it here,
Yeah.
but we can take it home and look at it, but
Yeah. That's the third section.
behind these, if you go further down,
Yep.
you'll find the
The rankings.
rankings under her 14 factors. And you could find, it's not gonna be apples to apples, because
Right.
it's a little different.
Yeah.
But from a hierarchy perspective, I don't think many things sort of fell out of being parallel to what we already had.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, that was my only concern, as to whether the new system would emphasize certain characteristics of a job that historically we have looked at and said, for the town of Newbury, that's not as important to us as this is, and therefore, the rating would be a 10% factor versus a 15%, or a 5 versus a 10. And again, I may be just tilting the windmills there, I don't know, but That's what struck me when I looked at this. I just wasn't sure of the map properly, but you can test run it.
Yeah. The thing that the way that I look at it is, they may not be weighted more heavily, but from the hierarchy of where it falls within the organization, I think that's what she was saying. It didn't really compute to many falling out of that line.
Okay.
Like I said, we just take any position, and I wish all these pages were numbered in one direction, but
I put all these ratings, the backup, I
Yeah.
put these in order of highest to lowest.
highest to lowest, I see that. And basically, I mean, point score totals, we'll
You're right.
jump out and say good or not so good.
Like I mean, she's got physical environment up number 1, and judgment and initiative as back to number 13. We would have had that the opposite way.
Yeah.
Right.
Judgment and initiative gets many more points if I'm just grabbing one, but there's,
Well, she might just start at the bottom and then go up. We start at the top, we go down.
right.
There just might be a style.
The other thing that caught my eye, and again, I don't think it's in code red, but, one of the factors she talks about is confidentiality, number 7. And historically, we have never, we don't consider confidentiality, because if you look at our rating system, it talks about the fact that all positions in a municipality, have to be very sensitive to confidentiality, and therefore, it's not something we typically address when we're doing a classification. In this case, confidentiality is one of the 14 factors.
When you look at it in the description,
Yeah.
it's to what degree is the position exposed to confidential information? So therefore, the factor, some jobs have much more exposure to highly confidential information, some
Right.
have none.
Right.
It's just a different way of looking
Yeah.
at it.
What in our old system would equate with her degrees?
It's just whether we give it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I kind of think she should just take the word degree out of all of it, but it's like whether we give something a 1, 2, 3,
Right.
4, 5, or 6.
Right.
Like in our old system, a 3 would be this, a 4 would be that. Sometimes we'd land on a 3.5. That's what her degrees are. I think that's what I was saying. Some of this is just gonna be new and a little cumbersome at first to get used to. But I thought that we had already decided at one of our former meetings, that we were
We
going
did.
to move.
Yeah, I'm not trying to second guess that, it caught my eye as I was trying to compare the two, which is, again, it's a bit of an apple and orange, 10 versus 14 factors.
Well, again, I'm looking at the treasurer collector position, and if you look, knowledge, training, and education ends up with 75 points. Judgment and initiative ends up with 75 points, but yet, interaction with others and experience is weighted a little less heavily. So it may
Yeah,
translate to
overall.
higher
Yeah,
point value.
Yeah.
And coming back to confidentiality, just first degree, no exposure to any information that's confidential. I mean, that's pretty clear. And then it ratchets up down to full and complete access, like you, both of you, are 5th degree. And that's pretty, I think that's pretty standard in every elemental business out there. What do you know and what do you get to see and read? And the majority of employees in the village don't really get exposed to confidential information.
So this is a starting point. I pulled off what I thought was pertinent for us to start with. Definitely check out the website. I was amazed at the amount of information, resources, all the backup work that's in there. pretty user-friendly, and then this will just be a work in process. I'm gonna tweak those couple of schedules and try to invert them, make them a little more user-friendly, combine them to one sheet.
Okay.
I'll have those, but if, at the next meeting, I think if people have questions or,
Yeah, you think, we've got a couple months now, we're talking about kicking this campaign off, start of the fiscal year, right, July 1. So for the June meeting, Tracy, would you think it would be a good idea to test drive one or two positions?
That's why not. Yeah.
See how they compare and contrast in both systems, and make sure that it confirms our suspicion that the new one is gonna work fine for us?
Sure.
yeah, or take a couple of examples before then and
Yeah.
see if, and compare them to the old one. You should have, if you don't have the updated point factors and classification schedule, the old one,
Right.
I can send you all I believe I sent an updated one, not that far back. Okay.
Does that make sense?
It
At our
does.
next
and-
meeting to dedicate 20 minutes to quickly going through a position or two, and,
Okay,
If you're looking for a firm commitment, Jim.
yeah, just to make sure that there aren't any bugs we have to iron out for our purposes. I mean,
Yep.
this serves other municipalities well, no reason to assume that it won't serve our purposes as well also, but,
There's an old Italian proverb, keep it piano for San Abel and Donna. Measure twice and cut once.
I thought that was Greek.
and in the legal profession, it's belts and suspenders, right? Belts and suspenders. Okay, so, we'll put on the agenda for the next meeting just to do a quick review of, a position or two in the interim. We'll do our homework and make sure that we're all comfortable with the new one. My guess is we will be, but it doesn't hurt to, test drive.
Test it out.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Excuse me, I don't have it in front of me, but one of her little missives to us was basically saying to us, don't automatically change something, and I sort of winced at that. I said to myself, well, in other words, and she gave a couple of little examples. That might have been in her correspondence initially. But I know she put in there certain limitations, like with the degrees, I'm trying to remember. Don't delete any degrees if blah, blah. I don't know if you recall it or not, but I wish I had that in front of me, but I don't.
well, I would think if you eliminated a section, it kind of throws it must throw the
Yeah.
whole analysis out of
Yeah.
line. She did a lot of, the schedules that we're gonna be using. She wants me to download those because we're gonna need to update them as we go. So I'm gonna be doing that when I redo the schedules, but I think her idea is don't change anything that,
Yeah. Well, it was a general,
Yeah.
not a threat, but don't, just you follow, this is our program, et cetera, and it is, we've done this, with your particular town in mind, so.
My guess is that that's generic language she uses
Yeah.
in all these reports for all of her clients. She wants to, as best as possible, maintain
Probably.
the integrity of their,
Right,
of
of
their
their
work
business.
product, right?
The business.
I read that as well, Tony, I'm just seeing if I can find it in her letter of recommendation.
we can say.
Yeah.
Some people
Set
like
it to download some other section.
right, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't find it, okay.
Well, goodness.
All right, any other discussion on this subject? Christie, your thoughts? You're
No,
happy with her?
I'm satisfied with it.
her
Yeah.
results?
I'm glad.
Are you talking about this memo, here it is right here, you can add additional spreadsheets if necessary, is that what you're talking about? But do not alter or change this page, all of the rates automatically calculate.
That's the one.
This is it right here, this was her admonition. That she was referring to, don't play with her algorithm. It says, there is one tab that is labeled points, please do not this page, all the ratings automatically calculate into one rating composite. In total points, the system is also designed to allow for 2 raters, so that it
Yeah.
has balance. That's what you talked about,
Yeah.
minimum of 2 people.
The column F business should not be edited because it contains all of the Excel formulas.
So it's all, yeah,
And,
so we can, if we have a new job, we can actually add it in as a tab, and it factors out, everything feeds up to the worksheets.
Column F.
she puts it in there. Good eye.
We don't want to-
Good eye, Mike.
Good eye, very good.
Good eye, Mike.
Okay, so
Keep everything.
Yeah.
I remember everything, be careful. What's up? What do you think?
Comfortable with what we talked about? Other discussion points? Any other new business? Do you see anything for us? No?
Business?
That's where, this is to schedule a next meeting?
we did the wrong agenda. That should be the May 19th agenda, so the next meeting would be June 23rd.
So we should scratch May 26th? And say again, June
I
23.
think it's June 23. 4th is the 23rd of June.
And eye surgery scheduled on the blind man on 23rd of June.
All right, Monday, June 23rd, from 4 to 5, and perhaps we'll schedule 4 to 5:30, just to be on the safe side.
There you go.
Play with a couple of these job descriptions to make sure that we're comfortable with the new rating system. 4 to 5:30. That's good. I'll let both Chief Fisher and Lynn know that we're scheduled for that date. Any other business?
That's 1,600 to 1,730 for you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we adjourn.
Thank you.